Hello, friends. Welcome to this show. Today, I have with me a very successful professional, a very dear friend. His name is Vikas Dua. Vikas is an HR professional with over 18 years of experience in the ITES space. He's worked across geographies, even outside India, and has been very, very successful. He gave up his regular job about a year back and now is totally focused in scaling up his new venture called Attayn. Attayn is a community of professionals which works with campuses to upskill the students. So they're doing a lot of work with the campuses across the country now. I welcome you to this show, Vikas.
A pleasure to be here, Vikas, and thank you for having me.
You've had a pretty long stint in the corporate space, and that too in the HR domain. You've been into recruiting and so many other functions. And now you started off this new venture called Attain. So tell us something about it and what was your inspiration for starting Attain?
Sure, happy to share that, Vikas. Attayn is really, if you ask me, a community of like-minded people. It's a community of experts drawn from very different backgrounds and industries. And all of us have this one mission to contribute to the academic space to young students to help them in enhancing their knowledge and skills. So we are growing slowly and surely and enlarging this community. It's a endeavor which, like you rightly said, about a year ago, I started putting into place. Prior to that, I was in the corporate space for over 18 years, in the HR space. Within that, more specifically, spent a lot of time in recruitment. And I started my journey in campus recruitment. So
Okay.
that area was always something that I was very passionate about. It gave me a lot of fulfillment. And towards 2018, 19, when I was thinking of the next chapter, strategically, I was drawn to this area of campuses, which has always been close to my heart, and that's how Attain was born.
Okay.
So, if
Okay.
I've also been always very curious to know from you, because I see you also on social and you're extremely passionate about the space that you are in. What was your inspiration for launching these trainings for young professionals, entrepreneurs?
So I started my journey. So I also worked close to 20 years in a corporate job, much like what you did. And I started my new journey about 2 years back. And I wanted to be in the training space, more so in the corporate training space when I started off. So things were pretty well before COVID, and I was working with a lot of corporates in the physical domain. As we knew training, right? Before
Right,
COVID, physical domain was the only thing we worked in.
correct.
But then post COVID, I realized I had now the opportunity, Vikas, to reach out to people who I otherwise could not have reached out in the physical domain. Having worked as an employee, I realized even a lot of employees, they don't get nominated for the right trainings that they wanted to.
Right,
You only get nominated for trainings that are organized by your organizations.
true.
So even the regular employees, and then a lot of these entrepreneurs or professionals, so-called professionals, so I wanted to reach out to a large section of these people, and online gave me an opportunity. And I have had a few registrations from outside India as well. So
Wow.
it's been pretty interesting, and it's more fulfilling to be able to reach out to larger segments of the population, and that's what keeps me excited. Because so now post Corona, I understand a lot of people would have taken the same initiative as what you've done. So, what do you think? Has the market really become too crowded? Is there still some space for the ventures like what you started off with? Uh, Tell us something more about it. What do you think? I mean,
Yeah, it's been a learning curve for a lot of people in the corporate world and in industry as large. The way I see it is, because very clearly the pie is only growing larger. And
okay,
thanks to, like you rightly pointed out, this whole online and digital revolution, today, literally the world is your playing field, right? And post Corona, the one big change I've realized is that today's era is about one's specific expertise and ability to service a particular niche, something what nowadays they call mass customization. Interestingly, because I'm sure you must be also aware, we can order a pair of customized Nike shoes. You can decide whether you want a green sole, a pink upper, a yellow swoosh sign on the side. But when it comes to services, that's where the real challenge lies. If I, as a professional or a student, you have an interest in, let's say, aeronautical space, and really want to get more attuned to marketing in that space, can I connect to a mentor who has that specific background of aeronautical engineering and knows digital marketing as well? Today, thankfully, to the digital connected world, that's extremely possible.
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of space that we at Attain are trying to address. So give people the kind of knowledge, skills that they want, and which will help them grow as professionals. So I'm quite optimistic about it. I think the more the merrier. We all help each other, and that's the beauty today of our platforms, where everyone is supporting each other and everyone is trying to grow in their own way. So I'm quite optimistic about it. But what about you? I mean, again, training. They say low entry barrier.
Absolutely.
Is it actually like that? I mean, do you advise anyone to take the kind of path or steps that you've taken?
So again, because what you said is right. See, this is an industry, especially the training industry. There's hardly any entry barrier. Right? Anybody could be portraying himself or herself as a trainer. And now, see, I also see a lot of people coming in and joining this industry. This happens with any industry which has low entry barriers. But one which I again would quote what you said: the pie will definitely get bigger, and more so because now you can reach out to people across the world. So the pie suddenly become is going to be multiplied. So more people are definitely required in this industry. But sadly, many people, Vikas, will come in only because the entry barrier is low, not because they wanted to be in this profession.
Uh,
So ultimately, what I realize is that those people will kind of get filtered out because they may just have been waiting for the right opportunity, and in the meantime, they happen to take on some assignments in this industry. As and when they look out, or as and when they get more opportunities in what they wanted to do, they will again move out of this industry. So I believe only people who really wanted to be in this industry will stay on in the longer run. But the pie definitely is going to get bigger. And I'm really excited about the opportunity opening up in the other parts of the world. So it's going to be a great opportunity. Anybody who's wanting to get into this industry should really think about the long term and should be. I mean, there's enough potential in this industry. That's what I think.
awesome. Lovely to hear that.
And incidentally, because I've been reading a lot of the stuff that you write on LinkedIn for all the viewers. So Vikas writes under the hashtag of HR in my heart, and he's a poet as well, and he does a lot of work, a lot of inspiring work for the youngsters. So Vikas, now that you transitioned from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, what do you think or what do you think is the most important attribute to be successful?
Sure, Vikas. So this is the top guidance that I give anyone that I interact with, especially someone who's in the kind of space I am. What happens when you're in the corporate world is that your calendar gets decided a lot of time by other people. Your meetings get set up by your clients, get set up by your boss, sometimes your team, because you have to have those reviews. And you obviously lose control over your own calendar many a time. And you fit in bits and pieces that you want to address within the slots which are finally left open. And that's not the most optimum way of working, right? So the approach that I recommend to people that seek guidance at any point is that you really need to start with what I call self-discipline. You should know exactly what your long-term or short-term objectives are, and the kind of activities, the kind of learning, the kind of transactions that will help you get closer to those long-term goals. So whenever you're creating your scheduler, keep in mind that discipline of what you need to do. The problem is in today's time, in 2021, it's even more challenging. You wake up in the morning, you've got the newspaper, maybe two or three of them. You've got your phone which is buzzing, you've got a TV close by, and you've got, on top of that phone, you've got not only phone calls, but you've got WhatsApp, and now you have a Signal to deal with also. And so that clutter is just something that can distract you, and we need to be very cognizant of such distractions which can actually derail you from your chosen agenda. So that's my number one attribute by far. What about yours? Happy to know yours as well, given that you know productivity is what comes to mind whenever one thinks of Vikas Bansal. And I keep reading some of your lovely sharing as well. It really kind of gives me some guidance in improving as well.
So when I talk about productivity, definitely what you said, because focus, discipline, all these are kind of very critical elements of being more productive in life. But if I were to choose mine, I always go with the word passion.
Hmm.
I somehow relate to this word because when I actually thought about leaving a job, when I started preparing myself for my second innings, I only looked at something which I was passionate about, and that's where I wanted to be. And now, being an entrepreneur, I'm not just looking at life for the next 5, 10 years, but because I mean, possibly the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
So I realize, especially for people like us who are now entrepreneurs or people who are wanting to be entrepreneurs, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line, they ought to be looking out for something that they're really passionate about, and then focus on that objective and make it happen. So, I mean, all as you said, many things which are really critical, but yes, I definitely
Lovely.
talk about passion. That's
That's
what.
one thing I see in every pore of your body language whenever one is interacting with you. That passion comes through across these virtual screens also. I must compliment you.
Thank you, thank you. So, because now that you do a lot of work with the youngsters, with a lot of campuses, uh, I want you to share anything that could be a real value add for these youngsters. So, any message for the millennials, people who are just about, let's say, passing out from their colleges or just entering the workforce. So, any one message which you would like to share with them?
Sure, sure, Vikas. And I'm going to just blindly piggyback on what you just shared. I think having spent 18 plus years and just like similar to yours in the industry, one thing becomes very clear. And I think that is that you must be aligned and do something that really you're passionate about and which gives you fulfillment. So the guidance which I will only give is that try and stay away from what we call herd mentality.
Okay.
At campus, it's easy to get carried away with the flavor, whether it's IT, consulting, banking, or nowadays in a lot of cases, startup, and they too they want to be into ed tech because that is the new fancy space.
Right, right.
So that in the long term, you will probably agree with me is not really the best approach. And therefore, I advise that find your ikigai. I'm sure being a productivity coach, you know this term, but just for the sake of the audience, it's really, in a simple sense, your reason for living. That which
Absolutely.
gives you joy, fulfillment, helps you earn money also. And the earlier you do that in life, you are better set for the long term. That's all I would share. What would you share with young minds as well? Happy to hear that.
I was really happy to listen to what you said, because as you said, everybody wants to be in the edtech space, from a white hat to a black hat to a blue hat. Everybody actually wants to don that new unicorn hat.
Correct.
And that really could be, I mean, you could be distracted by all those things rather than looking out for what you wanted to do.
True.
When I think about youngsters, because in fact I was fortunate enough to have worked across a lot of verticals. I moved in from sales and distribution to product management to strategy to analytics. Even had a short stint in finance. When I look back, I realize that multi-skilling possibly, especially in the current space, would really help. So unless you are more adaptable to the changing environment, unless you are really ready to work across different roles, you are going to struggle in the long run. So that's what I would say, that people should really be more adaptable, more flexible, and be ready to acquire new skills at a shorter notice than what we did. I'm sure your thoughts would really help the audiences, and it's been wonderful talking to you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, Vikas.
Pleasure. And thank you, Vikas, for having me. It's an honor.